Institute of Politics, and we welcome tonight's forum on nuclear security in the former Soviet Union. The guest of the evening is a wonderful friend who worked with me on a wonderful issue. It's one of the most thrilling issues of our day. It's filled with emotion, fear, guilt, and racism, and you can't imagine a more delightful thing. It's called immigration law. So Bill came to me and he said, "What the hell are you up to?" I said, "Well, you know, I was on the select commission." He said, "Look, I got some thoughts, and I can help you in places where you need help." And so we put together a bill, and we worked on it in good faith and trust, and that bill is somewhere in that computer, somewhere stuffed down in the craw of that computer, but it's a good bill, and if they ever look for it, someday they'll bring it up. I know they will. After you retire too. Well, we worked on those issues and we had a lot of fun and worked hard. Bill was here in the forum in January of '98 while he was serving as ambassador to the United Nations. He and I did a forum here together on the opposite sides of immigration in '85, I think, and he has been here before in other forums, and is now doing a tremendous job as Secretary of Energy, where you can't please anybody. And so I think that comes down to the fact that if you have a bear of a job, hire a grizzly. And that's what you've done. You pursued it like you pursued so many things, and doing things for others, and even doing things and bringing people back from serious situations. But you and Barbara have been very delightful parts of our lives, and Ann and I are delighted to personally welcome you. So, with that, I'm leaving this to Graham Allison. You'd never dream. He's sitting there thinking, well, Simpson did all this. He gave the introduction, but I did not. I'm going to introduce now Graham Allison, former dean of the Kennedy School for 12 years, currently director of the Belfer Center for Science and International Affairs, our resident loose nukes expert. But more than that, this place would not be here without Graham Allison. Get it in context. Others will take a little credit here and there, but for him, this would not be here. When the nurturing was needed and the baby needed care, in those early years, it was Graham who was the one who did it. And he should be listed and honored. But he was the glue and the grease that kept this place going as you see it today, as you know it today. It would not have been without him. So he's been a consistent friend of the Kennedy School, the Institute of Politics, and Graham, if you would offer up a paean of praise for our guest. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you for your graciousness, Alan, but it's a pleasure for me to join Alan Simpson to welcome Bill Richardson here tonight. Bill, as you know, is the Secretary of Energy. He is the highest-ranking Hispanic in the Clinton administration. But when he was nominated to be Secretary of Energy, President Clinton, I think, actually said it best. He said, quote, "If there's one word that comes to mind when I think of Bill Richardson, it is energy." I think that's a pretty good characterization of a career that's been quite extraordinary. If I could be so bold as to make one more word that comes to mind when I think of Bill Richardson, it's action. Not just energy, but action. And if you gave me three words, I would say my third word would be results. So this is a pretty extraordinary character, and it's a great honor for us in the Cambridge community and the Boston community to have him here frequently. I remember very well the very lively forum on immigration that Bill, when he was a member of Congress, and Alan Simpson, when he was a member of the Senate working on this bill, presented to us, and a number of other occasions. If you look at the agenda of the Secretary of Energy today, you might wonder how in the world does he come to be here with us even for a few minutes. And if it weren't for the fact that he actually graduated from another institution here in the Cambridge, Boston community, unfortunately not the Kennedy School, given the failure of our recruitment effort to be successful, but from Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy, a good set of colleagues, he would be dealing with, among other things, as he has been today and as he will be tonight, well, how about Chinese theft of nuclear secrets? Okay? That's his department, not one of his most favorite topics. Okay? How about American nuclear labs? Well, that's another. How about, as Governor Beasley here was just noticing and mentioning, that when 2 days after Secretary Richardson was appointed, he was in South Carolina explaining to Governor Beasley the joys of taking an unlimited amount of plutonium to store in South Carolina, another one of his easy topics. Or how about the dispute in the state of Washington over the cleanup of Hanford site, or Russian nukes, or we could go on and on. There's $20 billion of very lively, significant, important activity that occurs within this domain, and the dollars don't measure the importance, don't come anywhere close to measuring the importance of this man's mission. Before becoming Secretary of Energy, Bill Richardson had established a solid reputation as a negotiator and problem solver over a wide range of topics. It was that experience that led President Clinton to appoint him our ambassador to the United Nations, where he was involved in a whole array of issues from Afghanistan to Iraq to Zaire and on and on. Before being appointed UN ambassador, he served 8 terms as New Mexico's representative from the 3rd District, a Democrat, and in that role established a solid legislative reputation as part of the leadership of the Democratic Council, but a person who worked very actively across the whole agenda. Indeed, he and Phil Sharp, who's here in the front row, worked very closely together on the Energy Committee. So in terms of what we hope the Kennedy School is about, and what we hope students in the Kennedy School might grow up to be and do, a person who's got the stuff to run for office, runs for office successfully and wins, doesn't just get in office, but operates in that role to accomplish significant things, and then is able to move quite comfortably into the executive branch as well. This has been a remarkable career to watch, and it's only about, I'd say, halfway through. So it's a great pleasure to have him here, and we hope to have him back often.
Thanks, Graham. Thank you for that overly generous introduction. You said it just like I wrote it, Graham. That was wonderful. Thank you. And Senator Simpson and Ann, we miss you in Washington. You know, civility is gone after you left. And I know that the students here at Harvard benefit from your great rapport with people and how you view events. And to Graham Allison, not just thanks for that great introduction, but because of, there's probably nobody more expert on Soviet, Russian, loose nukes, security issues. And I'm very honored that Graham has agreed to advise us on our nuclear cities and our materials protection program for the Department of Energy. And we have just worked out an informal arrangement where Graham comes and brainstorms on a lot of issues, and this is a very important topic. To Governor Beasley, the second day I went to see this poor guy, this handsome governor, and he's in a re-election effort, and I tell him, how'd you like to have a couple of tons of plutonium? And he was most gracious, and he's a terrific guy, and I think the Kennedy School, this is, you students, I mean, the ability that the Kennedy School has to attract people like Beasley and Congressman Phil Sharp, who has had major input into the electricity restructuring bill, the deregulation of the industry. We're going to unveil it on Thursday. 50% of Sharp's provisions are in there because he was one of the foremost energy experts in the Congress. I know that you got Skip Humphrey here. I don't know if he's here tonight, but his father, one of the first jobs I ever had were for his father. If you see him, give him my bet. Mickey Edwards, where is Mickey? I heard he'd grown a beard.
He's grown a beard, but he's out of town.
He's out of town. I want to talk to you about Russia, and I want to talk to you about the Chinese nuclear spy issue. And then in the question and answers, we can get into anything you want. I have prepared remarks. It shouldn't take me more than 10 minutes. And then we can engage in a dialogue. I do this because I think it can focus a lot of the discussion that we have. And again, in the question and answer session, any topic, nuclear waste, the whole issue of low-level nuclear waste. We also, if you're worried about your gasoline prices, them going up, that's my department. If you're interested about solar energy, geothermal, biomass, new research, that's us. Issues relating to electricity deregulation, that is the Department of Energy. Issues relating to science and technology. I'm very proud of the science work that we do at the Department of Energy. Everything from high energy physics. I was just, Graham, at Bates Laboratory at MIT, and one of my budget people came up to me right before the budget came in, and they said, we can't afford Bates Laboratory. It's got to go under. We don't have the resources. We've got other nuclear energy priorities. And this was hours before we submitted the budget request to the Congress. And I asked, well, where is Bates Laboratory? Well, it's in a little town called Middleton, Massachusetts. I said, well, who runs it? And they said, MIT. I said, MIT. I'm the Secretary of Energy, and you want me to kill a lab, the preeminent science institution in the world, MIT, and you want me to kill this lab? Well, it just got revived. And we did that. So I went over to Bates Lab and told them they were still alive. They were very happy. And I needed a good visit because I've had a hell of a time in Washington with this China issue. So I feel good today. And I want to tell you that I'm here to talk to you about how we as a country have to take another high road, like Alan Simpson and the Kennedy School has. And that is how to build a safe route to the 21st century in a very, very turbulent age of increasing nationalism and yet greater interdependence among nations. With a Cold War behind us, we have to put the #1 priority and say what it is and do something. And that is a permanent path of non-proliferation, where technologies of mass destruction that are growing enormously and spreading enormously have to be kept under control. This issue runs directly into the complex, the nuclear complex of the former Soviet Union. The road has a great deal of traffic. International scientists, research groups, and governments, along with terrorists, rogue nations, would-be oppressors. And a lot of people are interested in the materials and brilliant minds that comprise Russia's defense structure through the Cold War. The Iraqs, the Irans, the North Koreas, terrorist states, sale of the highest bidder of nuclear secrets and technology. This president believes, and he has said in many a speech, that there is no greater threat than the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction confronting this country. He sees and recognizes that as these weapons spread, the risk rises that one day that they might be used. In our efforts at the Department of Energy to secure nuclear materials in the former Soviet Union and the newly independent states have gained a lot of credence and gravity and seriousness in the wake of Russia's economic collapse. When you have Russian scientists not being paid $100 a month and them having to feed their families, when you have guards at Russia's nuclear complexes not getting paid, not having blankets, not having food, and they're guarding enormous arsenals, that is a problem. Our Russian materials protection program is engaged at all levels of the nuclear complex in Russia: naval and other military sites, research facilities, civilian plants, transportation. And at the Department of Energy, we are now active in more than 50 sites throughout the former Soviet Union. And I believe there's a total of 58. We've completed security upgrades to protect more than 30 tons of nuclear material, and we will upgrade protection for 100 tons by the end of next year. We even address special problems, as I said, such as providing winter clothing, space heaters to guards at these facilities. This is a modest investment that helps keep our broader security work intact through a very volatile period. By expanding this effective program, we will secure many, many tons of nuclear material, and we will consolidate other nuclear material, meaning fewer sites will need protection and maintenance in the long term. We have a plan called the Initiatives for Proliferation Prevention. This keeps Russian scientists at home, preventing them from migrating to other countries. I was with the president in Russia last September and saw firsthand the difficult conditions that many Russian nuclear workers face each day. Tens of thousands of nuclear experts living in or near the nuclear cities are underemployed or unemployed. That is, they are not getting paid. Zero. How many missed paychecks do you think it takes to drive a talented nuclear weapons scientist into accepting a lucrative job offer from Iraq, from Libya, or North Korea? In some discussions lately, from Belgrade. We've already employed thousands of scientists at about 170 institutes and organizations throughout Russia and other newly independent states. We've also modified the activities of institutes and experts that were formerly inclined to provide assistance to would-be nuclear states or terrorists. And we have blocked other very disturbing activities. This is work that is going to reinforce our non-proliferation goals, to keep Russian weapons know-how in Russia, and to frustrate the desires of terrorists and would-be nuclear states. This is a program that over 5 years cost this country $500 million. An investment well worth it. An investment that is under attack in the Congress as being another Russian foreign aid program. It is not. It is a program that is important for our national security interests. Through our Nuclear Cities Initiative, we are bringing alternative employment to the 10 closed nuclear cities in Russia. 2 key nuclear plants are set to close, making the future of unemployed scientists even more certain. Our work is going to become increasingly important as Russia's nuclear infrastructure continues to downsize. We're also trying to help assure the safety and security of Soviet-designed nuclear reactors in Russia and the independent states. We're providing assistance to prevent the recurrence of catastrophes like Chernobyl. Next month, I will travel to the Ukraine to review our work on this front, another very important investment for this country. Part and parcel of our proliferation and non-proliferation work is the ratification of the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. Ratification of the treaty by the U.S. Senate is essential, and we as a nation and as an administration have to make this our top priority. This treaty is going to constrain the development of more advanced nuclear weapons and limit the spread of nuclear weapons to new states. Failure to ratify erodes our efforts to tell the Indias and Pakistans, stop proliferating, look at our example, when we have not ratified as a nation ourselves. Without ratification, we can't join other nations later this year to discuss ways to facilitate the treaty's entry into force. a treaty most Americans publicly support in polls. The Senate's failure to act this year weakens our national security. Our technical work, and this is some of the work that we do at our national laboratories, to ensure the verifiability of the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty will continue. The development of ways to locate and evaluate nuclear tests, along with other remote capabilities to detect proliferation-related activities, are key parts of our R&D effort within the Department of Energy. Let me end now with a few words on a topic that has been much in the news and has occupied a good deal, much too much of my attention, and that is I have now testified, I believe, close to 10 committees of the Congress, and that is the allegations of Chinese espionage at the national laboratories, at our crown jewels, at Los Alamos, at Sandia, at Lawrence Livermore, at some of our most prestigious labs that don't just do defense work. They do science, they do climate change, they do biology, they do medicine, very important work. Let me just say that as a country, and as a Department of Energy, and as a Secretary of Energy, I am committed to improving security at our labs. They have not been the best. We've taken a number of very strong actions, and I ask to be judged on what we have done, recognizing that there have been problems in the past, that security maybe was too lax, and that perhaps needed steps had not been taken. But we have taken very strong steps. We have hired counterintelligence professionals to be based at the labs. At each of our labs, we have counterintelligence people. We have doubled the counterintelligence budget in 1999 and again in the year 2000. We've instituted more extensive security reviews, including the use of polygraphs for scientists working in sensitive programs. And believe me, to a scientist, this is something that nobody likes. I'm not just talking about scientists, but this is a very dramatic step. We've strengthened cybersecurity. In fact, at this very moment, I ordered that our 3 national weapons laboratories virtually close down their computers until we can determine that no security breaches can exist. Specifically, the inability of transferring classified information into unclassified computers. We have taken dramatic cybersecurity steps to ensure that scientific interchange, which is key to our labs, which is important and which we will not stop, that in no way there can be security compromises. We have changed the screening and approval process for foreign visitors. Our national laboratories, their biggest strength is the fact that we have international scientific visitors, scientists from Russia, from China, from India, Pakistan, France, Mexico, Great Britain, from our allies, from sensitive countries. And we talk about nuclear safety. We talk about nonproliferation. We talk about DNA. We talk about ways that we can improve humanity. And I want to just state that while we will make every effort to ensure the security of our secrets, we will not end international scientific exchanges or curtail them. This is short-sighted, and it is wrong. We interact with the best scientists in the world because it's in our interest as a nation. World-class science cannot be sustained in a vacuum, and these interactions help protect our national security, advancing our arms control and nonproliferation policies. John F. Kennedy said this in 1963. We live in an age of interdependence as well as independence, an age of internationalism as well as nationalism. This was the same year he announced the Limited Test Ban Treaty. 36 years later, almost to the day when he gave this speech, this still holds true. We have to heed these words as we enter the 21st century if we hope to advance our nation's security and scientific excellence. Thank you. I blew something. Senator David Pryor, the president's best friend and my friend, we served on the leadership of the House. He was in the Senate leadership, and we used to visit, we used to sit at sort of at at the end of the table while we were heavyweights too, but while the heavyweights spoke. And Senator Pryor, I'm sorry I didn't mention that you are a great human being and a great man. No, I mean it. Who on my staff didn't give me that, huh? I'm sorry, Senator.
I was at those meetings, but sitting below the salt. Now, where were we? Yes, get up and ask a few questions, and if you don't, well, we will. Briar and I will get some together. Yes, sir, please. And if you could just try to do a question, a real question. And then give a real answer, too. Okay.
My name's David Alida Garcia. I'm a second-year student here at the Kennedy School. I'm actually from, originally, Chama, New Mexico, a small town that you used to represent. My question is a little closer to home, but still on this subject of nuclear weapons. It's actually about nuclear waste. As you know, in southern New Mexico, there's sort of a first-of-its-kind waste facility that just opened last month, despite not having a state hazardous waste permit being issued. And I'm just curious, in a general sense, how can we be sure that the waste that is being generated, and increasingly so as weapons are disarmed, the more waste we'll have, how can we be sure that it's disposed of safely, as safe as possible, and that all the proper precautions are being taken?
I can assure you, when I was a congressman, you were, I don't know if you remember, I did represent Chama, but for years I fought against this facility opening until I was sure it was safe. And for me, safety meant what is called EPA certification. The transportation and other safety and environmental provisions said that the facility could open. Now, last year, EPA certified, and this is a tough agency. I believe that WIP is ready to open, and we are formally opening it on Saturday. I can assure you that from the inspections that we have made of the waste going to WIP, and this is, right now we are shipping from Los Alamos, this is non-mixed waste. What we're talking about is low-level transuranic waste, it's gloves, it's not the high-level stuff. We believe it is safe. Now, I have respected the view of the state of New Mexico giving us a RCRA permit, and we are waiting for them to do it patiently so that we can move on with other waste. In my judgment, they have not leveled with me and said, this is the reason why we're delaying. We had to go to court with them, and we won. A judge, a very tough judge, gave us a victory to start the shipments. But I can assure you that on the RCRA permit, we will work with the state of New Mexico to get it so that once we start shipping the heavier stuff, that we will abide by all environmental and safety standards. Chama is a great place. Do you ever go back there?
Yeah, all the time.
It's a great hunting, oh God, I shouldn't have said that here. Simpson, I'm a Westerner, but I shouldn't have said that here at Harvard, huh? Okay, thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Sergei Kasyanov, Ukraine, mid-career student, Kennedy School. You're going to visit Ukraine next month with inspection of Chernobyl nuclear plant, as you told. Ukraine took an obligation to close Chernobyl under the condition of compensation, covering cost of closing and substitution of energy which was produced in the Chernobyl. This money is approximately $3 billion. And as always, it's the most difficult question, and they by far did not collect it yet. Your vision of solution of this problem, thanks.
I had some meetings with the leadership of the Ukraine recently, President Kuchma. How do you say it? Say it right. Kuchma. And what's so funny? I wasn't that far off.
It's a complicated question.
You were right. We have financial assistance program. We want to do more I want to find ways to ensure that the money we are spending on Chernobyl is more efficient and is spent more wisely. We are asking the Ukrainian government to loosen up a little bit on investment and transparency. They need to do more. They still have that very tightly wound economy. This affects some energy, electrification, efficiency initiatives that we want them to take at Chernobyl. What is my vision? I want to help. I want us to deal with nuclear safety more than we have with Chernobyl, because it's a huge problem. And I think the government has done a good job, but they could do more. They have the same, not as much economic distress problems with the infrastructure of the plant. We have our people there. We are building a plan to submit to the Congress that is serious and substantive. One of the things we have, and my public affairs specialist is here that knows more about it than I do, Brooke Anderson, is we have a robot that we've got at Carnegie Mellon that is able to help detect nuclear spills and radiation at Chernobyl, that we are going to take on my visit there and give to the government so that it uses it. Through technology, better technology, I think we can do a lot more. But we're developing a plan, but we are committed to working with the government of the Ukraine to improve nuclear safety.
Thank you.
Yes, over here.
Hello, I'm Jake Parrott. I'm a junior at the trade school down the river, and on behalf of as many people as I can speak for down there, let me thank you for your work in retaining Bates as an important part.
Are you an MIT man?
Yes, I am.
Am I a hero or what? Huh?
Absolutely. You and our president, who despite his record on student life, has been very good at retaining our research interests. Anyway, my question is about nuclear waste disposal at abroad. And the question is a lot of countries who use nuclear energy as a significant energy source have no sites anywhere remotely geologically useful as, say, Yucca Mountain to deposit their waste. And what do you see as the U.S.'s role in trying to help find sites down the road for other countries' nuclear waste? Not necessarily in this country, of course. But.
Well, we need to collaborate a lot more than we have. You're right, our technology is more advanced. Yucca Mountain is more advanced, although there's some that are, especially in the environmental community, that think that the site has substantial water and other problems. We are sponsoring an international conference late this year on nuclear waste, a subject that many countries and many populations don't want to talk about, because who wants it? But we got to deal with it, and we have not found a solution. We have technology looking at how best we can do this. We don't have a solution. We do think that storing it underground under certain conditions and temperatures, as we're doing at Yucca, is the best way. That doesn't mean that Yucca is going to be the site. This is the site in Nevada. That will be determined in the year 2001, and science should determine that, not politics. And a lot of politics, as you know, has focused on this debate. The problem we have now is, what do we do with interim storage? You have some waste here in Massachusetts that your utilities want to get rid of, New Hampshire. And what many in Congress are pushing is that we have interim storage at Yucca Mountain. What we are saying is, wait till we know Yucca is safe. We have to transport this waste. So I have proposed a plan that is not getting a tremendous amount of support. I think the governor of Wyoming was for it, Alan.
What was it?
My solution was, it's not a solution, it's an interim solution, is that the Department of Energy take title to the existing waste at sites, and that we say to the utilities, in exchange for this, you have to drop all the lawsuits against the federal government, because we have not, the federal government, followed the deadlines of delivering the waste to Yucca. That we pay for it from a nuclear waste fund, a tax that has been imposed on utilities to build Yucca, but that we ensure that total state and federal regulation, the NRC, the nuclear, govern the taking title to those sites. What we're basically talking about is you're seeing some drums, and you're having the government, my people, just monitor them, work, contract them out to make sure that they are safe until the year 2001. Now, that is a temporary solution. We've thrown it out. The Congress is going to start voting on it very soon. But you asked me an international question, and you know, we need to develop more cooperative ventures. I think Graham knows this well, but with a plutonium program with Russia, we've tried to get some of our allies to take some of the Russian plutonium. I proposed this in France, in England. I didn't get an overwhelmingly positive reaction. So this is something that affects all of us, and there's going to have to be an international approach. I would like to see the UN. You know, the UN can do a lot of good things. I want them to get more involved in the environment, take and tackle some of these very tough issues. You know, it's good to talk about good, positive issues like climate change, and we got to do a lot more. Reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, but whenever somebody talks about nuclear waste, everybody says, oh God, no, let's not talk about it. But in the meantime, around the world, it's piling up, and it's a problem for all of us.
Yes, up here.
I'd like to talk about climate change. Given the powerful vested interests in America, what is the likelihood of ratification and implementation of the Kyoto Protocol? And what are the prospects for, given that the United States is one of the most energy inefficient countries in per capita terms, what are the prospects for reaching reductions targets that are equivalent to those proposed, for instance, by European countries?
With 3 left hooks, huh? You know, I don't have a good answer to you because we have not in this country, as an administration, succeeded in convincing the Congress that we have to ratify the Kyoto Treaty, that we have to meet the 7% emissions reduction, that we should have emissions trading, that we can reduce greenhouse gas emissions by targets that involve the private sector and market mechanisms. At the Department of Energy, we're investing close to $500 million in renewable energy, and the Congress takes the money away from me saying it's climate change money. This is money for solar and energy efficiency and wind and biomass and natural gas research and a lot of other things that we want to do. I think that Europe also, knowing that we have difficulty, is taking an easy way out and proposing 20% reductions when they know they can't do it. Nonetheless, they have, I think, been more progressive on achieving the Kyoto targets. The big problem we have is not necessarily the United States, because I think with the will and the right coalition we can do something. It's not the European community. It's developing nations. Now, I'm not blaming them because they're saying, all right, you guys want us to reduce greenhouse. We haven't developed yet. Now that you've developed, look at you. You consume everything and you exploit everything. They have a point. And by the way, when it comes to greenhouse gas emission goals, voluntary targets, supporting our position, the United States got 2 countries to support them in the developing world, Argentina and Kazakhstan. That's not a great record. There are a few hundred more that aren't with us. So what we're trying to do is say to the Chinas and the Indians and the Africas and the Asias and the Latin America, we can reduce greenhouse gas emissions together with technology, with preferably American technology, with turbines, with internal combustion machines, with clean coal technology, with China. We just met with the Chinese, and we were very close to reaching some really good energy agreements where they reduce their greenhouse gas emissions by modernizing their coal plants. They have huge coal plants by having American technology. We came very close, but we didn't do it. We got a long way to go. Our record is not as good as it should be, and I concede that to you.
My name is Vasant Kamath. I'm a freshman at the college. When you were talking about South Asia, you were talking about India and Pakistan. And it seems whenever I hear any American diplomat talk about the area, they're always talking about India and Pakistan. I oppose nuclear proliferation as well, but it seems a lot of diplomats don't realize that India doesn't necessarily just fear Pakistan, they also fear China. and the fact that they've gone to a war with China and the border is contested and China is nuclear, even the fact that they're alleged, spies, or there's been alleged spying by the Chinese at Los Alamos shows that they're a threat. I'd like you to just comment on that issue and maybe proliferation in South Asia in general.
We had felt since China detonated and since India detonated and Pakistan had tested that missile, that we had made a lot of progress on non-proliferation between the two countries. The two prime ministers got together some 2 months ago, and we felt they were at least talking to each other and talking about setting up hotlines and generally reducing their what we considered very troublesome and dangerous efforts to get notice internationally, both countries. You're right. I think India sees itself as a major power. They see a threat from China. They see China and Pakistan collaborating. This is why the answer here is comprehensive test ban treaty signatures. And India and Pakistan have made noises that they're ready to do that. Regrettably, India just tested another missile. This is a problem. What is it going to mean in terms of future dialogue? The Indians said, well, we notified the Pakistanis plenty of time. It would reach Pakistan if we sent it out. So this is still a problem. Yet India is a great nation, and it wants to say, we want to be noticed. We are not just a small nation. And somehow, over the years, America, we've neglected India. We haven't paid enough attention to it. We haven't had cooperative programs with them, private sector programs. We've kind of said, well, they've been close to Russia, and maybe we don't know where they want to go, and they don't vote with us at the UN. Pakistan, we have a troublesome relationship back and forth. The fact is we have neglected South Asia. And we were on the verge. President Clinton was going to go out there, and we had a bunch of good initiatives, and then the testings took place. So it set us back. My comment to you is that I think the best way we can achieve these goals is by the United States raising these issues with China. We get a lot of heat about our China policy, that human rights is not respected, that we haven't had advances, we didn't get a WTO deal, we didn't move ahead with a number of other market initiatives that China and the United States should do. But I can tell you that it makes no sense to isolate a nation of close to 2 billion people. It's better to engage them than to isolate them. So we talk to them. We talk about our differences. We differ greatly on a lot of issues, but our policy has been one of engaging and bringing them in, getting them to sign the CTBT, getting them to implement it, stopping proliferation to India and Pakistan and sales, and we've had some positive effect there.
Yes, please, right here.
Hello, my name is Elsie Sharouzi. Nice to have you, Mr. Bill Richardson. And I want to pose a question to you regarding to Ukraine and Kazakhstan. 1 year and a half, I read about the linkage. I want to ask for further elaboration in this regard. The condition your administration stipulated at the first they have to stop the transfer of the nuclear technology to rogue countries such as Iran and the transfer of some of the scientists. Secondly, there was what they call their request for the financial aid, given the dire economic situation I am very fully familiar with, and their request for the military airplane a state-of-the-art airplane for Ukraine, military build-up. And another question is, I ask about what safeguard taken by your administration, the Mr. Clinton administration, regarding the unstable situation as far as the economic situation concerned. I know what you call it, generate some instability in the long run. And about the Kazakhstan, I want to ask another one good news I have for you. I want to finish it. The good news is that that there was an exchange student for the nuclear studies, because I was involved with the Iranian government, that terminated due to the pressure by the Mr. Clinton administration.
Okay, now I promise you when we finish this meeting, my friend, and I've got a lot of my can I answer these in private? Not that I want to dodge them, but they're very complicated. And you and I will walk out together. I'm not giving you the brush up. Okay.
No, I want to explain. I was involved with the Iranian government. I would be more than glad to forward you, furnish you with the information.
Okay.
Yes. Go.
Right here, please. Yes,
Hi, I'm Rebecca Weiner, and I'm a senior at Harvard College. I'm also from New Mexico, and my question regards Russia. And I was wondering, in addition to increasing security at current nuclear sites, what sort of measures are being taken to prevent material from being exported, perhaps illegally, across borders?
Okay, now Rebecca is I want you all to know, she is a very dear friend of mine, and she worked in my office in the Congress. I'm very proud of her. It's nice to see you. You're going to have a great future. And her mother and my wife are very close friends. Now, having said that, what we are trying to do, Rebecca, is we have programs at the Department of Energy of high detection technology at borders, at airports, joint training efforts. The way to detect the export of Russian materials and weapons and technology is through technology. Russia is such a huge country. If you look at the various sea and other transportation lanes, it's huge. So what we are doing is we have a number of cooperative programs that deal exactly with that. In fact, when I was in Russia, we inaugurated at all of Russia's airports a number of detection equipments that are used. Some of them, the technology is really outstanding. You can wear little suitcases about this big, and these are done at our national laboratories, at a laboratory near where you're from, at Los Alamos, at Sandia, at Livermore. This happens. You stick around before we leave.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Richardson, my name is Chris Kirchhoff. I'm a sophomore here at the college. I'm way up here.
Where are you? Oh, yeah.
Up and left. Hello. Every day I get the New York Times, and a couple weeks ago, a reporter by the name of James Risen, who you're probably now very familiar with, wrote a very interesting article in which he accused the United States of not paying attention to gross abuses in nuclear security. And furthermore, he accused that the administration is very aware of some of these abuses and that they didn't do much about it. They suppressed them, and he surmises that they may have suppressed them because of particular issues of engagement with China. Other allegations in recent weeks have surfaced, and you no doubt have been responding to them. Some of them involve very unpleasant things in terms of refusing to advance the careers of certain employees who have raised concerns about this issue, and specifically refusing to declassify congressional reports. And I would just like to hear kind of your response to the whole whirlwind of allegations that have surfaced in the recent weeks on this issue.
Well, James Risen of the New York Times has been a very, very dogged and I think effective reporter on this. His partner, Jeff Girth, just got a Pulitzer Prize for another side of the China story that he'd been doing. First of all, we reject that there's any political linkage, that we turned a deaf eye because of campaign contributions to China on sale of technology and nuclear secrets. That is just a little bit preposterous. That's number one. Number two, we have felt that our policies on technology sales have been not just up to par, but have been extra careful. Now, on the nuclear secrets issue, I said to you that in the 80s, under the Reagan and Bush administration, and then beyond that, both administrations, security at the labs was lax. And there's a possibility, nothing has been proved, nobody's been charged, that there has been damaging secrets lost. Are they serious? Yes. Do they involve the W-88 design? Yes. Have we addressed the problem now with tightening security at the labs? Yes. Now, we can go back and try to assign blame, and what I am trying to say is that it is important that we focus on the problem. But in correcting the problem, we not, number one, send international scientific exchange astray and have international scientists not want to come to the United States because they got to be polygraphed. That is not in our national security. Number two, it doesn't make sense to curb our foreign scientist programs. It's important to have Russian scientists come to Los Alamos to learn about proliferation and nuclear safety in nuclear cities. That doesn't make sense. Now, with Chinese scientists, we don't take them into classified areas unless they're accompanied. They're very strong safeguards. So I think we got to be very careful as we correct the problem that we don't overdo it.
Yes, up here, Bill.
Hello, my name is Ruben Marin Larena. I am a first year at the Harvard School. Actually, this does not do anything with nuclear waste or anything. It's more about political aspirations. How do you see yourself in the next election, considering if Gore is elected? And also along those lines, do you see yourself maybe accepting a vice presidential role in that administration? I certainly hope so.
I like that guy. You know, one of the easiest way you can stumble is to be catty in responding. So I'm going to just say to you that, one, I appreciated your question. Any political person, and whether it's Pryor or whether it's Sharp or whether it's Simpson or whether it's all these heavyweights here, you like a question like that, even though I'm going to duck it massively. I've been at Energy now 6 months. I hope to stay till the end of the administration. Beyond that, in a Gore administration, I believe he will be elected. I don't know what I will do. You know, I love New Mexico. I hope they ever take me back there and maybe run for something. I don't have the compelling need in my public life to make a lot of money, which a lot of people seem to do. There's nothing wrong with that. I urge you all to try to do it. It's your own thing. But I thank you for the question, but I'm ducking it.
Thank you.
Sir, my name is Piper Campbell. I'm in the mid-career program here at the Kennedy School. I believe that there were a number of nuclear issues on the agenda of the high-level meetings which the Russians canceled on the eve of the NATO attack. I wondered if you could talk about whether you feel that there were interests sacrificed by that, and also whether anything has transpired since then in terms of trying to get that back on track.
Okay, we do have some good news there. Even though the Kosovo attack, this was very interesting. I was sitting having lunch with the Russian Minister of Energy and Atomic Materials, Vladimir Adamov, and we were toasting each other. We had just concluded one of Graham's agreements, uranium agreement, big major agreement. We've gotten the uranium companies where we dispose of Russia's uranium and it is sold on the market. A great agreement, good for everybody. And we were toasting each other, and all of a sudden, one of my aides gives me a note, and one of Adamov's aides, maybe 3 seconds later, barreling through, gave him a note, and I read it, and it was this: Prime Minister Primakov's plane, upon being informed by the Vice President that we are bombing Kosovo, has just turned back, and all ceremonies and signings are canceled. We had just concluded the agreement. And I sort of decided, what am I going to do? And I looked at Adamov, and I know he had the same note. And, you know, we both kind of started laughing because we didn't know what to do. You know, what do you do at a moment like that? Needless to say, we made the best of it, and we signed the agreement. No champagne, no television, but we agreed that the important work in this very critical area had to continue. And we agreed on plutonium discussions, plutonium negotiations. We're starting next month and hopefully concluding an agreement by the end of the year. So we did advance quite a bit. You just never read about it. It did make it into the press a little bit.
Yes, right here, please. And we'll get ready to wind down here.
Mr. Secretary. My name is Carolyn Glick. I'm a student here at the Kennedy School. I had two questions regarding proliferation concerns. One is, when you talk about greater interdependence in today's world as opposed to the way that it was during the Cold War, I'm wondering whether the effectiveness of America signing more and more non-proliferation treaties is really as reasonable as it was in the past, when the people that were worried about being major actors in proliferation are not countries that will also sign, or if they do sign, can't be depended on to actually abide by their obligations. And secondly, I was wondering, in the past, after World War II, for instance, the U.S. brought a lot of German scientists to the United States, and in 1956, a lot of Hungarian scientists to the United States, and resettled them here. And I was wondering why similar policies aren't trying to be introduced to the scientists in the former Soviet Union, and also if now, in spite or in contrast to what you said, the impression is that U.S. and Russian relations are going to be hurt by operations in Kosovo, and as a result, perhaps it might be a window of opportunity now to try to resettle them here.
You know, you ought to ask your former dean here. There is nobody.
He's my professor.
Is he? I mean, no, he knows more about Russia than anybody in the world. I mean, and has the right answers. Here's how I'm going to attempt to answer the last part of your question and then go into the first part of your question. The Russian relationship right now is in trouble. I mean, I saw it firsthand at the UN when we differed over Iraq and bombing. Right now, it's going through painful exercise in Kosovo. Now, at the same time, we're trying to engage the Russians in Kosovo to get them to be the mediating entity, and that is strong and that is good, and I hope Russia can do something. That doesn't mean that you abandon the relationship. The relationship is so important precisely because of the issues that you talked about, we've talked about tonight. Nuclear scientists, nuclear safety, keeping nuclear material safe, that we have to, for our national security, continue plodding along and helping the Russian democratic system and the market economic effort, which is troubled and has a number of other problems in a variety of fronts. We just have to continue it. That is in our national interest. It's difficult to manage a very difficult relationship where you go week by week, but it's the best we can do. Now, the first part of your question, I still think that one of the biggest problems we have is non-proliferation, expansion, growth, whether it's the North Koreas, whether it's nations that are our allies, whether it's countries like India and Pakistan that for a variety of nationalistic and national security reasons want to dramatically improve their arsenal. I still think that the best example is the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, of signing that, of entering into international binding arms control agreements with verification through international monitors, through the United Nations. I don't know of any other way. Now, finally, let me make one short pitch for international organizations at the UN. You mentioned one of our biggest problems, non-proliferation. International terrorism is another one. International climate control, international issues relating to international drug cartels, problems of ethnic wars like in Kosovo. These are multinational, regional problems. They are problems that cross countries. The best way to deal with them is multinationally through entities like the United Nations. And we can also preserve our own options and our own national security interests when our own resources and interests are threatened. We use our own bilateral force. We use NATO. But when it comes to many of these trans-ethnic, transnational problems, let us look at entities like the UN.
Thank you.
Had you asked a question before?
No.
If you could just do a quick question, and then I'm going to come to this gentleman, and I think I'm going to have to conclude. They've given me the signal about 8 times, and so I have to.
Okay.
And then here, this one.
Up here. My name is Alex Rubalkov. I'm a freshman at the college. My question is about non-proliferation. Tom Clancy once wrote a book about this, but my question to you is, it's for your perspective. if a rogue nation or a well-funded terrorist group really wanted to acquire nuclear weapons, how easy would it be for them, and how much money would they have to spend?
You know, there are statistics for this. Imagine the size of a softball. That is all you have to steal of plutonium that would make a nuclear weapon, that the size of a softball. Now, on the black market, where's Brooke? Brooke, what was that price that Dan Rather asked me? Remember? A black market price. There was some price, something like $30,000 for that softball, something like that. Those are black market statistics that we think are reliable, although we ought to double check that. Somehow I think of that as being a figure that is in my head. It's tougher than you think. You know, we have a lot of intelligence, and other nations are part of this too. There's the perception that the North Koreans and the Iraqis, they can just walk into Russia and buy somebody. There's a lot of surveillance. There's a lot of very good collaborative intelligence work. Is it going to happen? I hope not, but it might. We got to be ready if it does. Has it happened? I don't think so. What is the prognosis? The threat increases with more rogue and terrorist nations trying to use all types of means, the Osama bin Ladens that we've got to deal with. What do we do about it? We got to plan for it, and we got to spend money. And you, as a taxpayer, have to accept that some of this money maybe won't be put to the best use. We got to experiment. We got to find ways to deal with what I think is the most important and most vital national security problem we have as a country right now.
Thank you.
Secretary Richardson, my name is Ryan Calder. I'm a junior at the college. And my question has to do with your long-term vision and the administration's long-term vision for the relationship between energy and security issues across Asia. And in particular, as we see energy demands going up dramatically in Asia in the next 10, 20, 30 years, it's expected that a lot of these energy needs are going to be addressed by countries in Central Asia, Iran, in that region, in which the possibility for security problems arising is increasing dramatically. And as Zbigniew Brzezinski and Brent Scowcroft have written about the potential for flashpoints arising in these regions as a result of energy needs. So just in light of those questions that will be coming up, I was wondering as to what your long-term vision is in that regard.
Well, first of all, it is very important. Let me just take Asia, and then we'll go to Central Asia. What is most important right now, given that the Asian financial crisis appears to be easing, is that we work with Asian nations and move them in the direction of more efficient energy. And I think natural gas has enormous potential in Asia. I'm talking about Japan. I'm talking about the Koreas. I'm talking about Taiwan. I'm talking about the People's Republic of China. There's huge natural gas potential in partnerships. The development of that, I think, is a singular most important initiative that we or Asia can take together or apart. That's number one. No. We got to go?
No. I want to take these last two questions, and then we'll have to conclude on that.
Okay.
Because some are
All right,
going to microphones again. I can't.
All right, I'll be brief. No, on Central Asia, look, the whole energy picture, and you appear to know it well, enormous potential in Central Asia. The gentleman in Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan. We want to see a route that we think is safe and secure and protects our interests. It's called the Baku-Jayhan route. It's through Turkey. It's not through Iran. And it's politics. It's geopolitical issues. We are not at a stage where the American-Iran relationship is going to get any better. Why? We are concerned, as always, and I'm going to keep repeating these things. Number one, Iran's support for terrorism. We are concerned about Iran's lack of support of the Middle East peace process, disrupting it. The sale of Iranian and purchase of Iranian materials and sophisticated weaponry. It concerns us. We like the fact that the new president of Iran is sending good signals. We like there's more people-to-people contact. We have said to Iran, we're ready to have more government-to-government contact. They've said no. We want first it to be people-to-people, students, professors. That's good. Maybe that'll work, but the people that call the shots in Iran are the religious secular leaders, and I don't think they want a better relationship. So while we have this hostility, you will not see the real energy security needs based on distance and price and transportation in that region go according to the market. It's going to go according to politics and muscle, and that's the way it is now.
Thank you.
I'm Hugh Gustafson. I'm a professor at the trade school down the river. On behalf of the Bates Lab, thank you very much. I have a question about freedom of speech at your nuclear weapons labs in connection with the Nuclear Stockpile Stewardship Program. As you know, we did our last nuclear test in 1992, and since then we've been moving towards a program of virtual nuclear testing called Stockpile Stewardship. There's immense disagreement and debate among some of your nuclear weapons scientists about how well advised that is. And there's an increasing feeling at the weapons labs that they're not free to speak their minds in public about that. At the Lawrence Livermore lab, there's a scientist called Ray Kidder who believes that we could have a different kind of stockpile stewardship program that would be cheaper, and the Arms Control and Disarmament Association asked him if he would testify to Congress about the stockpile stewardship issue. The Department of Energy denied him access to the classified report.
Who did?
The Department of Energy and the National Security Council. And at Livermore, he's now been denied access to seminars on stockpile stewardship, although he has a top secret Q clearance. At Los Alamos, a senior and very well-respected weapons scientist, Jas Mercer-Smith, gave an interview to the Washington Post in November, in which he said that there's really no substitute, ultimately, for nuclear testing. He said he supports stockpile stewardship, he wants to make the best of it, but there's no substitute for nuclear testing. The story is widely told at Los Alamos that the next day you called the director of Los Alamos and asked that he be fired, to put it bluntly, and he was eventually docked a month's pay. I teach a class at MIT called Ethics and Science. We study, among other things, the Challenger accident, and I encourage my students to always, throughout their career, speak their minds, stand up for their scientific judgment, so that we won't have more Challenger accidents. There is a perception at the weapons labs that scientists' opinions are not entirely welcome if they don't agree with the administration's line. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, this guy's got good stuff. Robin, where's Robin? Now, Robin is my science advisor, my lab man. He even looks like a scientist, so I'm going to help him. I'm going to have me help him answer this question because it's a very good question. But it has a number of premises that I don't think are accurate. First of all, the policy of this administration is we are for stockpile stewardship. We don't believe nuclear testing right now based on stockpile stewardship. Our computers, the work we do is necessary, and I have to certify with the Secretary of Defense every year based on lab recommendations that the stockpile is safe without testing, and we've done it now 4 times. I've done it once. Now, as far as the lab scientists, they are employees of the Department of Energy. These are DOE labs, so this freedom of expression that you can go out, and this second guy, I do remember the incident. I did particularly object to some comments he made that I thought were very provocative about little kids and bombs. It was a very stupid statement. What was his name, the second guy?
Jas Mercer-Smith.
Yeah.
By the way, they're employees of the University of California.
Yeah, so what? They're our contractor. They work for me. And they're supposed to follow policy. They can have their internal disagreements. This is not a university. That's the difference. They're a DOE lab, Department of Energy lab. And there is no such thing as freedom of expression at a lab when it comes to our nuclear secrets. I'm not going to tolerate that. So there's a difference. It's not an academic institution. Now, in the first case, I don't know about the first case, about the...
Livermore's Congresswoman Ellen Tauscher has written to you about that case.
Well, I don't see all the mail I get. What? Thank you, Mike.
2 points, if I can, I'd like to address. One is on your opening on virtual testing versus real testing and the adequacy because that touches very much on the policy issue of what does CTBT really buy you. And the second one is in the specific case of Ray Kidder. If I could take the second case first, which I have some degree of familiarity with, Ray Kidder was and may still be, well, it's probably difficult to be a consultant to an agency which no longer exists, but was a consultant to the Arms Control Disarmament Agency. And there's a particular study back in the early 90s on the efficacy of remanufacturing nuclear weapons without testing and what dangers that could generate in terms of the confidence because you haven't tested it. ACTA, Arms Control Disarmament Agency, initially asked Ray to examine the study. We were told about it at the Department of Energy and noted to ACTA that suggested to them, rather than talk to someone who was not involved with that study, talk directly to those who wrote the study. And ACTA told us this was fine, this met the requirements, and we said, and if you have further needs, if you still want Dr. Kidder to take a look at it, let us know. And we've heard nothing from them since.
You know, here you have, rather than get too much into the weeds, and I don't know about the Kidder case, but when I certify that the stockpile is safe, I go through a hugely long process of Department of Energy, the lab directors, scientists. You know, there's some that may have a different point of view. And they can express it, they can state it, they can write me. But when they take public positions in the Washington Post, this is not an academic institution we're running. We're running nuclear laboratories in defense of national security. But you have, it's a good question.
I would have stopped, but you see, my middle name is Kooi, K-O-O-I, and this is a former Prime Minister of the Netherlands. So if you want to get down to the hard facts, there. Go ahead, sir. Yes, please.
Very kind of you. My name is Lovers. I'm now visiting professor here at the Kennedy School.
You were Prime Minister?
I was Prime Minister. And I'm not really a freshman in energy because I was minister responsible for energy 25 years ago. So it was really a pleasure listening to you. A combination of sentimental journey and a fresh up. I was impressed by you, sir, as a politician. And I noticed that in answering several questions, you related as well to the need of multilateral approaches. This brings me to my question. Shortly after the end of the Cold War, one has decided within the European Union on a so-called energy charter, in which to participate, the United States was invited as well. This has developed gradually to an energy charter treaty. Enough countries have signed that and ratified it, so it's working. It's still primitive, but it's there. Now my question, you're only 6 months in the department, did your people ever tell you something about that? And if so, if you know anything about it, do you know what the bottom reason is why the United States does not want to participate in that treaty?
No, I don't know. Nobody's told me, and I don't know.
This is a great nation.
But I'll find out. I'll find out.
Do so. I'm available.
You know
for
who Rudy Lubers is?
Yes.
Wasn't he Prime Minister?
Yes.
Is that you?
That's me.
That's Rudy Lubers?
Yeah. Okay. No offense.
I've heard of you.
No problem.
I didn't get your name when you said it.
Okay, good.
You were
No
quite
problem.
a guy.
Right, sure.
No, you were. This guy.
Study
no,
the
really.
treaty. It's more important than the compliment.
Bill, thank you very much, my friend.
I really was honored to speak to you tonight. I also want to tell you that a greater privilege for me was I had a call from Senator Kennedy last week asking me to be on the advisory committee of the Kennedy School of Government, and needless to say, I've accepted, and I'm honored, and I thank you.
Thank you. You have just seen the man I know, patient, direct, forthcoming. I love the phrase, get into the weeds. That's something we Westerners understand. I don't think they picked that up, but get into the weeds. And you did get into the weeds, and the marvelous thing about you is you are an ultimate facilitator, an ultimate negotiator, and a man that wants to see things work. And it's so easy as we learn together. If you want to use emotion, fear, guilt, or racism, you can gum up the works every time. But if you want to use your brains and your goodwill and your good humor and common sense, you can make things work. And that's Bill Richardson.